up, everybody? Welcome to Legacy TV and the Convo podcast. And today, you guys know how I say at the beginning of my shows, I got another very special guest because in my eyes, I'm bringing you guys a lot of the history of mixed martial arts, of jiu-jitsu, right in front of your eyes, and we're keeping it real. Everybody that's come on the show has been keeping it real, telling crazy stories that never been told before. And before I say his name, I want to tell you guys a little bit about, the history of MMA just does not only involve the UFC. There's so much more than just the UFC. There's so much more bigger brands that have promoted mixed martial arts and brought mixed martial arts to the next level. And those fighters that you end up seeing in the UFC, they all came from these different promotions that were bringing these fighters up. And this gentleman here today is part of the matchmaking process. And you name it, he's been there. He was part of Elite XC, part of Strikeforce, part of Bellator. In my eyes, one of the best matchmakers in the game, and has given the game a lot of great fights. And also, not just the matchmaker, this is another thing I want to say. I respect the most, as myself being a martial artist, I know this gentleman is also a martial artist and is involved in the game. And it's my pleasure and my honor to have Rich Chow on the show today. What's going on, brother? Man. Thank you. Thank you for coming by, bro. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Legacy. And that was a hell of an introduction, bro. You just made my day. Can you do that? Can I call you like every morning just to get my day started with that kind of positivity and hype? Because
yeah, man,
that made me feel good. Thank you.
Absolutely. You could absolutely do that because that's how I live my life now, brother. I'm so blessed and so happy to be alive. And every day I wake up, I get to see my children. And I raise my kids by myself. I have 3 children. And, each day I look as a blessing to make myself a better person, a better father. And above everything is another day I get to help people. And I believe that's what we're all here for. And, I'm striving to do the best I can to be able to be in a position to help a lot of people. So yeah. that's why, it's such an honor to have people like you here to tell their stories and what they've been through and how much you guys have given to people like me that, from the outside, we're looking at martial arts as like, oh, this is my way out of the neighborhood, the way out of the bad environment. Like, and I found a new family in martial arts and I don't need to go be out there no more. So it's so important for people like that came from where I came from and made the mistakes that I make to hear stories about mixed martial arts and martial arts in general. So, brother, let's get right into it because you got because you got a history, a big history. So let's start from where you were born and where you grew up.
Okay. So I was born on Guam, tiny little island in the middle of nowhere. Really special place, though. Very lucky to have spent a lot of time there as a kid. Ended up, so I stayed there through high school.
Okay.
And then I actually moved. Do
they speak English?
Yeah, it's a U.S. territory.
Sorry, guys, I'm not very smart.
No, man. Hey, this is for learning.
We're in the hood, guys. We're in Santa Ana.
So, yes, U.S. territory. Speak English. Use U.S. dollars, U.S. currency.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I don't know for some reason why I thought it was
if you went there, you would feel like you were in Hawaii.
Okay.
So that's exactly the vibe.
I would love to go to Hawaii, brother.
That's so it's very, very, those two islands are very similar with
the type of people,
the culture, the warmth. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I see, because I do know a lot of Hawaiian, so I understand. So you're basically kind of like Hawaiian.
Yeah. So the cultures, when you really get down to it, the cultures are unique and diverse. However, I think the overall vibe, the easiest way for me to kind of capture it is just, it's a really beautiful tropical place with a lot of warm, friendly people.
And brother, I noticed something. You're very tall.
Yeah.
Did you play sports growing up?
I did. So
that's one thing I noticed about you immediately. Like, hey, goddamn, hello, sir.
so I actually wasn't a martial artist from like as a child. Like, you meet some people and they were training martial arts since they were young. I actually grew up kind of more like a jock. I was playing volleyball and basketball on Guam, and that kind of took me to playing volleyball at Pepperdine University over in Malibu. So
you were really good at volleyball. You got a scholarship to go there?
I got an invite to join the team. They gave me a spot on the team, and I made the move out here. But man, we were so good.
Pepperdine is located where?
Malibu. So what, about an hour from here, or an hour or so? So
you guys that don't know, so basically, got invited to like one of the coolest places in America.
It was fun. Yeah, it's a beautiful place, and
beautiful women, beautiful beaches, beautiful life.
All of that.
Food. That's awesome.
All of the above. So very lucky to have gotten a chance to pursue higher education there, play sports, and that's kind of when I discovered jiu-jitsu. So, late 90s, I'm going to school there, and then I discovered jiu-jitsu.
Do you remember how old you were, and what was it that made you discover it?
Well, I guess we could rewind even before that. Like, I remember UFC 1.
You were watching already.
Yeah, I remember being.
So you knew what jiu-jitsu was.
Yes, I remember being at a friend's house. I was younger then. I was in '93 was UFC 1, right? And so I was a little younger, and I was hanging out. My sisters were older, so they used to take me around, and I'd hang out with them and their friends. And I remember being at someone's house, and they had it on TV, and I was this little kid just watching it, like part scared, part excited, all those emotions that make you feel alive. And that's like how martial arts makes me feel. So I remember that at a very young age, watching UFC 1 and being like, what is this?
Yeah, this is crazy.
This is crazy.
Had you done any traditional martial arts?
None at all.
So this was your first introduction to any martial arts, was watching UFC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I had friends, you grow up, you have friends that are going to karate and taekwondo, but never, we were always playing ball, right? Okay. And so watch UFC 1, and that just kind of got ingrained and burned into my mind. Like, that is crazy. And of course, Hoist and jiu-jitsu. So I get a little older, and by the way, at this time, the guys on Guam are getting into MMA.
Yeah.
There are some guys that were the true pioneers. I'll shout them out. John Calvo, Melker Manabusen, Steve Roberto. They all were training under Ensign Inoue.
Oh, I've been shout out to Ensign Inoue. He's supposed to be on the podcast. I've been talking to him for a long time, and God willing, he'll be out in California soon, and we'll have him on. But
Ensign's the man.
Yeah,
and he
is the man.
He was that original inspiration for all the Guam boys.
Do you remember that one gi he had with all the patches on him? I bought that gi.
Yeah, man.
That's how much I like that dude. I don't buy the other people's gis, but his I had to get. That one's sick.
Yeah, he had just really, really unique style about him. He had this really great attitude. He was intense, but he was also inspiring. He's all those great things that you look for in a leader. And so he really got the boys onto training MMA.
Oh yeah.
And so there was already a little bit of a scene on the island, and a lot of jiu-jitsu. Guys started fighting in events. Super Brawl started going to Guam from Hawaii. So in the late 90s, the scene started popping, right? 100%. And so those are my guys, and I'm watching them, and we're inspired by them. And so eventually out here, I started getting exposed to jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah. What was your first place training at?
Very first place, white belt. Hickson Gracie.
Oh boy.
In Pacific Palisades at the time. So I'm going to school in Malibu. I'm looking for jiu-jitsu. I find Hickson's place. So Hickson was like my first,
actual Hickson. Hickson touched the class as well.
I saw Hickson a few times. So this is what's really, really crazy is at that time, as a white belt, the beginner classes were taught by Hickson and Henry Akins.
Hickson was his son, correct?
That passed away.
Yeah. So rest in peace.
Yes, and so Hickson and Henry Akins,
which are both of them were badasses.
Yeah,
and Henry Akins is a pioneer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And they're both purple belts teaching our white belt classes. And then you had Limao was there at the time, and there was another Luis Paul Haddis who was there as well. So that was the core group that I was around at that time. And then Hickson would come in. I remember the first day that I got a chance to cross paths with him, because at that time, man, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you he was like my jiu-jitsu idol. Like we used to watch Choke like once a week.
Yeah,
and,
he was
lit. We were just like so into it. I'm 19 years old, just like
He was the man.
Yeah, like I want to do everything he's doing. I'm gonna go.
He was the man, and then not only was the man, but you were training at the spot. Where
Yeah, so I'm like, I have to go there.
So when you see him, it's like seeing the Godfather strolling through, right?
I remember one day, it was done training and just kind of packing my stuff up, and then kind of feel this pat on the shoulder. And then I turn around and it's him, right? And he's like, "Hey, what's up, big guy?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" There he is. There's the guy. And so that's where it started for me. And awesome, and then eventually I moved into the Valley and I started training at Jean-Jacques.
Jean-Jacques, shout out to the Machados. We just had Higgin Machado on, who was also a student of Rickson Gracie's, and he made that clear as well. So it's crazy to see how many people Rickson has been able to touch.
It gets small, right?
Yeah, like when you if you really look at the community, it gets like when you look that deep down in the core, it gets smaller and smaller, and then you see where it all came from.
Yes,
which is pretty cool. Which is what I love to bring to the people, so they can kind of understand how it all, especially how it all populated out here. So you're training with Rickson, and then what is your first day like? Do you remember how did you immediately take to it? Because you got the body for it. I always tell the people that are taller, is like, you guys got to sit. I wish I was tall like that. I'd be strangling fools.
Yeah, it's. I think it's very common when you see a tall guy, probably with your students and your training partners as well. Obviously, someone long. The first thing they're like, guard.
Yeah,
we're gonna get this guy. We're gonna get this guy a good guard, and we're gonna teach him. So. It was fun to have them be very supportive there, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up going to Jean-Jacques over in Tarzana. I started living out over on that side and start training more on that side, and it's really fun to look back and think, because there was another guy with me around that time on this journey, Bear from Show Your Roll, who's also from Guam. So we grew up together on Guam.
One of the biggest gi companies out there.
Yeah. So
one of the most expensive too.
Yeah.
Hint, Show Your Roll. If you ever just want to throw your boy a gi, I would love to wear it.
I got you, bro. I got you. So
I just mess around. Go ahead.
So him and I, it's great to look back and think like we were playing basketball, volleyball, playing sports on Guam, and then we both end up in California. And then we become these jiu-jitsu dorks. We're like these mat rats that every opportunity we got, man, I'd call him up. So he lived in Lakewood and I was in Malibu, but I would always come out more to his side because there was more schools and more action. So, hey, bro, weekend's coming up. Let's map out what schools we want to go to. Take the intro classes. Just drop. We would go anywhere to train.
Addicted.
We were
the bug, as they say.
We were jiu-jitsu dorks, man, and still are to this day. So
same here, brother.
Yeah, we would drive around and go train at different places and just really, really enjoy it. And he would like pass out Show Your Roll stickers. There was no gi yet. He was years away from making gis. It was just stickers and T-shirts printed in small amounts that we would show up. We would enter tournaments together. And I remember my first interaction, because I know your lineage and your background with Joe.
Yes, sir.
I remember being at the mall. What's that mall? Triangle Square?
Yep.
And he used to hold tournaments out there like in the early 2000s.
Yep, we had tournaments off of Fairview and Bay. Joe used to have tournaments everywhere.
He would pop up wherever, right? And so like the scene was stronger in this area.
100%.
And so I'd come out here all the time, and Bear and I would just go visit different schools, enter tournaments, and we just kept training. So that was like my initial. Those were the early days for me for jiu-jitsu. So it was like training at Rickson's, and then I went to Jean-Jacques, and then I got a blue belt from Jean-Jacques. So this is like 2002, and then I decided to move to Hawaii from there.
Before we move on to Hawaii, let's just give a shout out to Jean-Jacques Machado.
Oh, man.
A legend. For a lot of people that don't know about Jean-Jacques and are like new to martial arts or MMA, Jean-Jacques I actually had a training partner that one of his hands is like, it's like a smaller hand. It's he was born with that, right?
Yeah.
And, I had a training partner that was like that. And, like just being able to, have a little bit of a disadvantage and turn it into an advantage and become a monster. I've seen it with my own eyes. So much respect for that, and not letting anything deter him and becoming who he was. And on top of not just being a great fighter, because he was one of the best, he also became one of the best teachers.
Yeah, he's an amazing teacher. And you're right, his disability actually made him
Even better.
His everything, the technique was just clean.
Exactly what I was trying to say.
So
shout out to, the John Jacques Machado, 100%.
Amazing.
One of his students is, Eddie Bravo, correct? Yeah. And Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan, they all come through that lineage. So a big part of the MMA and history is right there through that. So you got to train with one of the OGs.
Yes. So during that time, since you mentioned those two names, Eddie was a brown belt, and I remember he was really at that time, really developing those techniques that make the signature 10th planet, positions and techniques, from the lockdown to rubber guard at that time. Remember, Eddie was just on point. He was busting out the twister around then, and Joe Rogan was a purple belt. So for me, as a white belt, to be around all that, it was really, really fun.
You ever get to roll with them?
I used to roll with Eddie all the time, man.
Oh, yeah?
And then he knew that I was just down to be the grappling dummy after, so we'd drill, and he'd try his best to kind of turn me on to what he was doing.
I love Eddie Bravo's style. I look at people like, there's two ways to look at things. You could be a hater, or you could really sit down and look at what people have to offer. And I think a lot of different people have a lot of things to offer. And Eddie Bravo, he's a game changer. He's a game changer, because the reality is all he was trying to do in my eyes was show people that, what is it going to take for jiu-jitsu to look good in MMA?
Yeah.
And without a gi on. And that should be part of it. I say this all the time, bro. I say, you can't tell me you're a good jiu-jitsu black belt, and then if you take off the gi, or if someone starts to punch you, your jiu-jitsu's out the window. How can you realistically say that?
Right.
You're right. And there's a lot of people like that. And I'm not trying to be a hater, but I just love jiu-jitsu so much. But when I got into mixed martial arts, I got into mixed martial arts. I didn't get into jiu-jitsu. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. Then I did MMA, and I was like, oh shit, that's what jiu-jitsu is. Yeah. So it's like, I think it gets lost in translation sometimes. But so as you were coming up, so you train with John Jacques, you get your blue belt, then
I had this itch to fight, to really get into MMA. And
so I moved to Hawaii.
So then I go from there. I moved to Hawaii, where I spent a lot of time as a kid. We had family there, and called up my uncle over there, and I said, hey, can you help me make this move? I want to get out of Cali. I mean, MMA wasn't even legal in California back then. I know for a lot of people that must be mind-blowing. Like, we're talking 2002, the only fights you can get are on the res, right? So I call up my uncle, and he's like, I got you. Come and stay. We have a room for you. We'll help you get on your feet, help you start a life here. And, going back to that Guam ensign connection, his brother Egan Inoue is running. At that time, he was the best fighter in Hawaii and had the most successful academy. So I go out there, and who do I start training with and spending a lot of time with? Barrett Yoshida, right?
Shit. Legend.
Yeah.
Another legend.
He's still competing. Hall of Famer.
Dude, legend.
All-time great.
I sent him a message, and he was like, down to do the podcast, and he's like, where are you at? And I said, Orange County. He's like, all right, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, one of these days.
But I'm going to get him on, bro. But yeah,
because he's always training. He never does anything else.
I see his stories. Like, that's
always training.
And like, he's got that one choke with the belt that he's doing on everybody.
Like, assassin choke, I believe he calls it.
Or ninja choke or whatever. He's a beast, man.
So I end up there.
You just literally going from one legend to the next. It's just crazy, bro.
Spoiled, right?
Crazy,
so I'm
very
just like
spoiled.
crazy spoiled. And so 2002, 2003, like right around there in Hawaii now, training at Grappling Unlimited with Egan, Barrett, the rest of the crew, and just then starting getting more into MMA, because it was more of an MMA gym. And Hawaii's fight scene at that time was really
popping.
Arguably, had the most action, had the biggest names going there, because you got to remember, going back to what I said, it's not even legal in California, much less several other states, right? And so everybody wanted to go fight in Hawaii because that's where the action was, and they wanted to go enjoy paradise. Yep. So you had Vitor Belfort made his pro debut there. You had Matt Hughes fighting there. You had Frank Shamrock, so on and so forth. Robbie Lawler, all these guys, a lot of them, go look at their history. Go look up their Tapology. Go see. You'll see how many fighters, you mentioned Jason Miller, Mayhem. came up in Hawaii. In fact, we used to live together in Hawaii. We were roommates together. Yeah, we go back, man. We were running and gunning in Honolulu.
Shout out to Jason Miller. Shout out to my boy. He's doing big things. I'm so proud of him, man. He's back in the limelight, and things are going well for him. But yeah, keep going, bro. But yeah, shout out to Jason Miller. We love you, bro.
What's up, Mayhem? We got to catch up, bro. But yeah, so my point here is that the scene in Hawaii was strong. It was like outside of the UFC and what was going on in Vegas, Hawaii was the place to be. And so we were getting so many great fighters and fights. And so I'm there training with Egan. I take a MMA fight in Super Brawl, lost a decision, and shortly after that, I met the Penn family. BJ Penn.
Shout out to BJ Penn.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the legend and his brother JD.
Yep.
So JD was running a show called Rumble on the Rock at the time.
Yep, I remember.
And they were doing big things. Like this wasn't like a little regional show. He was like,
yeah, it was big.
I'm going big.
Yeah.
I'm not here to just, put on a small show. And I really appreciated that. And we just connected, and he took me in and offered me a chance to help him grow Rumble on the Rock. And
what was your initial position there?
He said, I need a matchmaker, but really it turned into, I just need help with everything.
Yeah.
Because this
matchmaker plus.
Yeah, because, there was only a few people like him and his wife, and, the other family members would chip in for different things. Like he had Reagan doing graphic design and video editing. And of course, BJ was fighting on the show. So it was like this really cool family business, but there's so much stuff that needs to be done for a show at that level.
A lot of work. Yeah. 100%.
So he came in as like, hey man, I need a matchmaker. I'll show you the ropes. And I'm like, hell yeah. What a great opportunity, man. This is like my break, right? Yeah. This is what, this is my moment to get in the biz.
Had you ever thought, had this ever even crossed your mind, like I'll be a matchmaker?
No.
And then all of a sudden, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, because I was thinking about that today when I was thinking what we're gonna talk about. I was thinking like, what a dope ass job! Like you get to put the fights together. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy because you can kind of dictate their future, like in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stress. It's crazy.
At the same time, I was gonna say, yeah, it could be stressful as well.
It's
because you determine the outcome of their career. In a way.
It's a crazy job. Some are loved, some are hated. But I'm not thinking about all that at this time, right? I'm like 21, 22 years old, and I'm just thinking, holy shit, here's my break. I get to get into the biz with this amazing family
with the Penn family.
Yeah, this is my break. So JD's like, hey, I'm gonna help you. I'll don't worry, man. Just come in with that energy and that heart that I think you have, and we'll be good. And fortunately, it all worked out. So it was matchmaker was like kind of how he was the bait, and then it ended up being, man, we're doing everything, which is great because when I look back on it, this was my chance to as you said, how do you get that job? Well, you don't go to school. You don't study to be a promoter or in the business.
You learn on the job. You learn on the fly, which is, in my opinion, sometimes the best way to learn.
Right.
The best way to learn.
Exactly. It was priceless. So I look back on it now as I got a chance. This was like I was going to school.
Grassroots. Right? Learning everything from the bottom.
Everything.
Yeah.
Legacy. Everything. I'm not exaggerating. Bro. Like handing out flyers, putting up posters, picking dudes up at the airport, whatever it took, helping build the cage.
That's sick,
we
bro.
Did everything because you had to.
That's grind. That's real grind though, right there. That shows like when you get the interest into something, then how it evolves and it takes more work. And then when you realize it takes more work, if you really want it, whatever that work is going to take, you're going to do what it takes.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is what happens for you.
So that was the start. Crazy, it was doing everything and like literally we touched everything there was, everything that is part of putting on a show. We were involved with. We had our fingerprints on, and it was an amazing experience. And then I got a chance to start like really working with some big name fighters. It was really, really cool.
What was like the biggest name for you at the time that like it might have been a couple of them, but the biggest one at the time where you were like, oh my, damn, I'm really doing this shit.
I will give you a few that are relevant and cool for different reasons for us.
Yeah, please.
So I'll start off with some that were really fun. Like at that time, as far as where we are here in Orange County, we brought Kimbo back to Hawaii.
Shout out to my boy Kimbo. See, everybody keeps bringing you up, bro. You got to come on. That's my boy. That's my training partner. That's my family. He's one of Joe's students.
Yes.
Love you, Chemo. Chemo hasn't been on no media, so when he comes on, it's going to be something special.
Yeah, I see he's been laying low, and I understand why. But Chemo came and fought for us at the Rumble. Tank Abbott fought Cabbage. They had their rematch. Headlined a Rumble on the Rock card.
At that time, those were big fights.
No one was putting these kind of shows on outside of the UFC, really, or Pride, right? Yeah. So we're these young guys in Hawaii just hustling and trying to do big things, and it was really cool. Some other events that were very noteworthy. We put on a welterweight Grand Prix that featured Sharuto, Frank Trigg, Jake Shields, Dave Monet. It was Carlos Condit's kind of breaking out party. Like that's where he really made a name for himself.
That's some fighters right there.
Anderson Silva's first fight in America. It was in Hawaii with us during this tournament. Yushin Okami. So that Ron Jun. So that was like a real special event that kind of started putting us on the map some more. And then of course I probably the biggest, and I shouldn't say probably, but really the biggest was BJ headlining, fighting Rodrigo Gracie, and then fighting Henzo Gracie over at Aloha Stadium, which is like the big stadium where the college football team plays. So, and those are big in the jiu-jitsu community, right? As you know,
100%. I remember those fights. BJ was an absolute animal. He was fighting everybody. Lyoto at heavyweight. That was a great show, and that time period, that was one of the biggest organizations in that time period.
We were doing some really big things, and you know what was really cool at that time? They were our competitor, and we were going at it. But Mayhem was fighting for Icon, and like I said, he was. We were living together, and he was doing his thing, fighting Robbie Lawler. Nico Vital, like he was doing his thing. So at that time, the Hawaii scene was just really special.
Yeah.
100%. We call it like the golden era. So every time I like reconnect with some of the guys from back then, we do what old guys do, talk about the good old days.
Yeah. That was a special time, bro. Yeah. So what makes the transition from there?
So Rumble on the Rock, we're doing big things. We're starting to get some people's attention, and that leads us to Elite XC.
I remember Elite XC coming.
Yeah.
Elite XC was one of the best promotions that I had seen in a really long time. And let's just be honest, the first major guy of Elite XC, in my opinion, that really brought that company up was Kimbo Slice.
Oh, man, yes.
Rest in peace to Kimbo Slice.
Yes, absolutely. Rest in peace, Ferg.
He really made that company pop.
Yes, for sure. He was the game changer for the whole sport, and obviously for our organization. So yeah, we go.
You immediately go from Rumble on the Rock to becoming the matchmaker for Elite XC?
Yeah. So let me connect the dots here. So we get I get a call one day from JD. He's like, "Brada, like we did it. Like we have that opportunity to go. Like what we always wanted. His dream and his goal for us was always to go and start being bigger out here on the mainland, right? And start doing national events, like to go from small regional shows to just expand, go big, start getting on television and all that. So that was always the dream and the vision. And when he called me that one day, I'll always remember it. He goes, we here's our break together. Like, these guys called from LA. They got a deal with Showtime, and there's this boxing promoter named Gary Shaw. He started naming all these guys. This guy's a producer for the Jimmy Kimmel Show, Doug DeLuca, and I'm like, when do we go? He's like, pack your bags, man. We're going to LA in 2 days to go meet everybody and start helping them build this company. But they want us to help, to be, to be in there from day one.
Elite XC had some great fights. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was Nick Diaz and KJ Noons. I remember those fights. Those were some crazy fights. And Nick definitely blew that company up as well with Kimbo Slice. And then I remember something, I think if I remember correctly, it was Seth Petrozelli versus Kimbo Slice that brought the house down.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about in that era, but you're absolutely right. Look, it was the Kimbo era.
Yeah, it was 100% the Kimbo era.
He broke, ratings records. He sold out arenas. He really put us on the map, and really that's when the world really saw him and go from the backyard into the cage. Nick Diaz.
Yep.
Gina Carano, Robbie Lawler.
Gina Carano was another one. Yep, Robbie. Yep.
Yeah, there's so many
that built that made that organization very popular. And then all of a sudden, gone.
Yeah, one day it's the Petrozelli fight. You know, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Let me just say, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and all of a sudden it became ride or die with Kimbo.
Yeah,
like his
if
rating.
If he goes, we're sinking.
Yeah.
Damn.
So the ratings, everything, like it's just this perfect storm where there was this dependency
on him.
And
then for those of you that don't know, the dude came in with pink hair. Seth Peters
but it switched.
He wasn't supposed to fight him.
No, he was supposed to fight Ken Shamrock.
That's right.
He was supposed to fight Ken Shamrock that night.
Ken Shamrock got a butt in the head or something. And and he had a slice on the head. See, I know my shit.
You do, bro. You do. You know your history well, and that's exactly what happened. Ken had to pull out hours before the fight.
They just pulled him out the stand. They went and found the dude with the pink hair and pulled him out the stand.
No, he was on the card.
He was already.
He was on the undercard. Okay, so he was
go.
supposed to fight a kid named Aaron Rosa.
That's right.
So he was supposed to fight a kid named
same weight class.
They were supposed to fight at 205, but Kimbo was only like 225. Like
it wasn't that far.
We knew that one of these boys would be down to fight him in the main event on CBS.
Get paid a little bit more. Yeah.
Get the exposure, get the opportunity. And obviously it worked out for Seth. He
KO'd his ass.
He took advantage of the moment.
Yeah.
And
damn, I remember,
shocked the world.
Yeah, shocked me, man. I know. I was a big Kimbo fan coming from the street. I think he shocked the whole streets. I think a lot of the streets were behind Kimbo. You know, that's what Kimbo had that was different, because the streets finally had somebody that was like them, that was, you know, that scary bully dude that we know, and he was finally like, and then to see him just get KO'd by, and especially with the dude with the pink hair, it just destroyed it.
You know, you're absolutely right though about Kimbo, his fan base, his effect, his aura. It wasn't jiu-jitsu like traditional dudes and purists didn't like him.
No, absolutely.
They're like, nah.
Let's be honest. They wanted to see him get his ass beat.
Yes. So if you like, all the hardcore guys didn't like him, but that's still a good thing.
Yeah.
Like he made you care, and then the mainstream crowd, because remember, he was like the first YouTube guy. He was the first viral, internet sensation.
100%.
And so he was already out there.
Yeah.
And he had all those fans, and there were a lot of guys that he brought into our sport as fans that were not MMA fans. They were 100%. Fans of his. They loved what he did on the streets and who he was and his character.
100%.
And so he brought us a whole new fan base. Because when I would see people at these events, like we're in Miami, we're in Texas, we're in these different places, I'm looking out in the crowd and I'm like, these are not fight fans. These are not the normal people that we see.
No, these are the streets.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's the thing that Kimbo had, is because, you know, one thing I can relate to in the streets is that, you know, they all want to fight. That's what it's all, being a gang member or being in the streets, they're all fighting all the time. So, you know, when somebody's like, one of them can beat everybody up, they look at him like he's the baddest dude in the hood or whatever. So for them, and when you look at Kimbo, he has that exact look that, like, yeah, this is one of the big homies from the hood, that if he comes around, he looks like he just got out of prison and he's gonna beat your ass.
It's a real life Debo, right? Like, you don't want no problems with him and his whole crew. But here's what's really, really, look, I know we look back at Kimbo and we know he wasn't the best mixed martial artist.
No, he was a good dude, though.
Oh, man,
he was
a real
really
good dude. His whole crew.
Yep.
We're all still friends today.
And his son's fighting now. And,
Baby Slice.
And doing really well. Shout out to Kimbo Slice and his family. We had to talk about him a little bit because, man, it was such a fun time to have him around. And he's dearly missed in the MMA community. And I think the whole MMA community feels the same.
Absolutely. We still talk about him to this day. His impact is still felt. Like, we're all, the whole crew, his manager, IC Mike.
Yep.
We're all still connected. We're all still close. We hang out all the time. And it's, you know.
He's gone, but he's not forgotten.
Exactly.
That's you know, he did his thing. Yeah. Rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace. So Elite XC goes under.
Yep.
And then
Strikeforce is next.
So this dude is literally going from all the best organizations from one to the next. Like outside of the UFC, you were doing your thing. So and Strikeforce was one of my favorites. I loved Strikeforce.
Yeah, Scott Coker
and Strikeforce. That time period, the fighters they had, the Dan Hendersons. Shout out to Babalu. Babalu was on the show. You know, the Lorenz Larkins, the King Mo's, like.
So many, man. We could spend the rest of the day talking about
exactly.
Just the Strikeforce
was an amazing time.
Yeah, let me kind of connect the dots from Elite XC to Strikeforce. Yeah. So Elite XC goes down. Scott Coker and his group that were owned and operated Strikeforce acquire Elite XC, like all the fighter contracts, the TV deal. So all of a sudden now Strikeforce and Scott Coker are going to be on Showtime and CBS. And to be quite honest, like I had met Scott before in the Hawaii days, BJ's fights. He would come out, we crossed paths. It was always cool.
But you guys didn't like know each other well.
Yeah, there was just this level of respect, and we were cool. And we actually worked together a few times during the Elite XC days because we did co-promotions with Strikeforce, right? And so we had crossed paths and we were cool. But I knew that deep down, he really didn't want to bring anyone over from Elite XC because, the fallout was like dramatic and a bit of a disaster. Like, I could understand him wanting to just stay free and just get off to a clean start. But fortunately, I had the support of a lot of the fighters, of a lot of the people at Showtime. They would get in Scott's ear and be like,
those relationships.
Hey, man, you should bring Rich over.
Yep.
It's like, okay. Like all of a sudden, that idea starts gaining momentum, and then he picks up the phone and called one day and he goes, "Hey man, why don't you come out and let's try and figure something out because you keep coming up in these conversations as I'm doing this transition." So I originally didn't want to bring anyone over from that regime, but let's just see where this takes us. So fortunately, it worked out. I came out and earned his trust, earned a place over there, and then he brought me in as Strikeforce's first official matchmaker.
Wow, crazy! And that, like we said at the beginning, Strikeforce has its own era for the hardcores. They all know, like a lot of the UFC champions came from Strikeforce. So let's just leave that part at that. Strikeforce gets eventually bought by the UFC?
Yeah, so about 2 years later.
Because they realized all the best fighters were there, right?
We were doing such a good job. We had to get bought out and all lose our jobs. But that's pretty much what happened. So we were on a run, man. There was one moment where I just felt like, man, the shows were so fun and the fans were really getting behind us and we were having a moment. We were hot. We were on a streak here, on a roll. And then the UFC came in, bought us, and essentially dissolved the whole company. But here
fired everybody.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah. So Scott stayed on as part of his deal.
I remember he was with the UFC for a little while. I remember that part.
Now here's the good thing that happened, right? Here's the very positive thing that happened for us and all of us from that whole experience. And you actually mentioned it. A couple dudes named Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold, Tyron Woodley, amongst others. We had Overeem, Nick Diaz, like all these guys all of a sudden go to the UFC and start really doing well, start being part of the biggest shows. Some become champions.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it validated all the work we were doing at Strikeforce.
100%.
So people look back and say, man, those guys were kind of onto something, and that sometimes maybe the best guys aren't always in the UFC.
Right.
Sometimes they could be somewhere else. This deal, how things played out, allowed us to really see what it would be like, right, to have the Strikeforce guys fight there, and a lot of them achieved a high level of success. And Rockhold, Woodley, and DC, to speak on them, in particulars, because they never fought in the UFC before.
Right.
Like Nick Diaz went back. Oh, but he used to be here, right? Like Robbie Lawler was back. Oh, but he used to be here.
Right.
So homegrown it was those guys that
yes.
became champions, and so. We're very proud of that.
Validated. It stamped and approved. Bam.
Yeah, like wow, okay, those guys actually recognize talent and that.
I remember a lot of the Strikeforce fighters at that time talking shit too. Like, well, what's up now?
Yeah.
What's up? All the Strikeforce, a lot of the Strikeforce are the top guys now.
Right.
Which you're 100% made you guys look great.
And yes, and so that was the good thing. The bad thing was obviously it was over and it was time to go start something new, go down a different path. So that was kind of the Strikeforce era, you know, in a nutshell, the good and the bad and kind of the aftermath. So then that takes us to the Bellator days.
At that time, Bellator was already going.
Yeah.
Because Bjorn, shout out to, I don't know if you guys are cool with Bjorn Rebney or whatever, but I am. He bought my CD in the streets. I seen this dude pulled up at a Sports Chalet. And it was a nice ass car. And back then, I never used to get out of my car when I sold CDs. I used to just pull up on people if they were walking in parking lots or if they were parked. I'd reverse and pull up next to their window. Hey, how you doing? You from Orange County? Hey, man, do me a favor. Check this out. Da, da, da. And I pull up and I look at the dude. I'm like, I know this dude. And I'm thinking, hey, this is the Bellator president, the dude that's on the TV, right? Because I watch MMA. But you know what? With me, he was cool as hell. I think he gave me like almost $100 for one of my CDs. Wow. And he's like, I respect your hustle, man. It's cool to see like somebody really out there. Da, da, da. And he was cool, man. And he gave me his phone number, and I always kept in touch with him. And me and him were cool. But at that time, Bjorn was running Bellator, and that's the time when Scott came over.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Bjorn was running Bellator, and shout out to look. I don't know him, but I respect him as a founder and somebody who believed in
mixed martial arts.
That's right. 100%. So we'll always have that connection, and to me, that's
end of story.
Right.
Yep.
So I get a call from Scott one day. He's like, "Man, you are not going to believe what's going on. I'm going to take over Bellator, and what do you think about getting the band back together?" And I'm like, "Well, damn, I guess here we go again." And this took a little time. So between Strikeforce and Bellator, you know, Scott was under contract with the UFC. He was under a non-compete. And I was actually living here in Orange County. I was working over at Ruka with Pat Tenore, helping him launch VA
Shout
Sport.
out to Pat Tenore and Jason Perillo, which we just had Jason Perillo on the show. Shout out to my dog. What up,
Absolutely.
bro?
So I'm working at Ruka with Pat, helping him grow sport, VA Sport, helping the gym. So I'm in there with Perillo, with Peasy every day. And so in between, I was here. I was actually living in Costa Mesa, and then I got the call, and it was just time. You know, I sat down with Pat, and he's like, "Man, you really got to go do that." And we were getting ready to have our first child up in the Bay, where my fiance was living at that time. So I was commuting back and forth. So, anyways, it was a situation where it was pushing me back to go back up to the Bay because I had lived in the Bay for Strikeforce, and I was living here for the Ruka gig, and all of a sudden, Scott gets the gig. I'm having a baby up in the Bay. It's like, man, it's
kind of perfect.
It's time. Like this is the universe telling me
it's aligning. Yeah, it makes sense. And so you make the move. That's it. Back to the square roots. Back to and now new promotion, Bellator. Yeah. Who, if you don't mind me asking this time, who was the champions of Bellator around that time? Just to kind of get the image of where Bellator was at when you took over.
Okay, it's 2014. 2013 to 2014, you know, they're doing the tournaments at that time. And I want to say some of the bigger names at that time.
Eddie Alvarez was around.
Eddie was around, but he was just leaving to go to the UFC. That's right. Like him and Bill, you know, that whole saga.
Now it's coming together.
So
the time
we actually never even promoted Eddie. Yeah. He
it was a little bit before.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So
Bellator, let's be honest, was not that popular yet.
No, but okay, so they started to bring in bigger names like Tito and Rampage.
Yes.
But I want to say some of the champs at the time were like Emmanuel Newton.
Yes, I remember him.
Andrei Koreshkov, like Shlemenko.
Yes.
And a lot of those guys lived and trained out of Orange County, right? So, and the offices were here too. So there was this strong OC connection with Bellator at the time. But yeah, Bjorn had a formula. He had a recipe. And Scott's was just different, you know. And I think the network wanted, you know, what his vision was. I think they wanted to give that a shot, like bigger events, some bigger names, and so they made that move. And then we come in, and then we're asked to elevate it, bring in some bigger names, put on some bigger fights. Let's go to some bigger arenas and play that game.
And what you guys did, in my opinion, I didn't. And in the beginning, I remember I didn't watch Bellator very much. I think a big thing that, you know, and it comes with the stigma, man. Like they always try to say, the UFC has the best fighters, but I think one thing that Bellator I started to see that they did that I think was very good for them was starting to bring the guys out of the UFC that didn't want to be in these contracts that they didn't approve of, and financial disputes and stuff. You guys got to start eating all those guys up and start getting all these great fighters in there. And I thought Bellator was becoming very, very popular.
I'm glad you recognize that. And you said it earlier too. It's like the importance of all these other organizations. Yes, the UFC, the industry leader, the originator,
for sure.
The top, like
the top.
Man, I got nothing but love and respect. Yeah, absolutely. Without them, who knows? where we are.
But it wouldn't be them without all these other smaller promotions to get these fighters ready to be there.
Right. So I feel like if there's anything that I look back on, it's not only did we bring in new talent that they hadn't discovered yet, or talent that hadn't got their chance yet, but we also helped guys improve their careers from 100%. A financial standpoint. Like you said, free agency, right? So we're bringing in guys like Stephan Bonner, Ben Henderson, Rory McDonald, Phil Davis, Ryan Bader, Lorenz Larkin, like so on and so forth. We became a viable option for them. Frank Mir, like we can go on and on about
Fedor.
Yeah. So
it became big. It became real big. And some of the best fights, I believe, were also in Bellator. Bellator became one of my, in my opinion, I would watch both. I would watch the UFC and Bellator. And then, eventually I started, paying a little bit more attention to PFL recently.
Yeah.
But at the time, like, those were the two.
Yeah.
And then you had one championship coming in the background, but they don't hardly have the big presence in America.
Correct. Yeah. So they're focused on Asia.
So for eyes out here and like my people and out here, and for myself, it was more focusing on the Bellator and the UFC.
Yeah, at that time, at its peak, that was what we were what we were gunning for, right? Yeah. Is to be a viable contender and a viable alternative. And for a while, I think we were we were very competitive with ratings and with fighters, and just then the whole Bellator journey just kind of, for several reasons out of Scott and everyone's control, things that were happening with the network, things that were happening just out there in the world of business, because Viacom owned Bellator,
correct,
publicly traded company, and things just, I think Bellator became a casualty and a victim of a lot of the things that were happening over at the corporate mothership,
the big owner.
Yeah, with what was happening.
That's one of the things I did want to ask, because all of a sudden, like, Bellator is going to PFL. Like, what? Wait, what? Like, yeah. What happened? So that's one of the things I definitely wanted to ask you. So it wasn't necessarily Bellator. It was more Viacom, which is the people with the money.
Yeah, that's the parent company. That was
the
funding,
people with the bread.
Yeah, they were funding the operation, and I think they just had a change in strategy.
Yeah,
and they wanted to pivot away from that and do some other things and kind of scale back on some things. So now at this point, I had left Bellator. I left Bellator 3 years ago.
Okay.
To join a company called Alta, which I would love to talk about after we get caught up with the whole.
Yes, that's what we were. Yeah, exactly. But I just wanted to bring us up to date because for so long I was able to see you kind of like in the spotlight. Of all these organizations and stuff. And in my opinion, one of the best matchmakers, outside of the UFC. Period.
Oh, thank you, man.
I'm sure if you were in the UFC, you'd be excuse my French, but a fucking great matchmaker there too, bro. So that's just my opinion though. But go ahead.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the love there. Man, we just wanted to work hard and put on fights that we thought the fans would want to see. We wanted to make a difference for the fighters, to give them an alternative, to help them get paid. Like, we just wanted to help keep this thing going, man, and keep it strong and keep the industry going and be a viable alternative. And that's all it ever was, man.
And you did that. Let me ask you a question. Throughout this whole journey, you never stopped training, right? Because I think I've seen you recently in a black belt. And I just
on and off
throughout this whole. But let's get it right though, bro. When you say on and off, you started a long time ago.
Yeah, I started a long time ago. And
so you did continue to train throughout the years, and did you end up receiving your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yes, I did. So my journey is quite unique, and the whole span was like 20 years or so, right? Because I was moving. start, all those different
100%.
things that happen, work, all that, life, and
injuries,
yes,
all of it, work.
Yeah,
I got you, bro.
All of the above. So there's all these interruptions, and so just a little bit of my background. Earlier, I mentioned training at John Jacques, getting a blue belt over there, and then I mentioned when I lived here, in between Strikeforce and Bellator, I was training with Alan Goes.
Oh, my boy! Shout out to Alan. He's been on the show as well.
Yeah. See, small world, right? This community.
It all comes full circle, bro. Yes, sir.
So I'm with Alan at that time when I'm living here, and then I get promoted to purple. So my purple belts with Alan. Then I move back up to the Bay, and I'm training there with some really great guys with Gumby over at Heroes Martial Arts, and then I meet a guy named Jay Gennaro, who is an amazing coach, and he had a crew of heavyweight. Just this wrecking crew that was a good complement, like great training partners, and he was an amazing coach. And it just lined up, where we both looked at each other and said, "Hey, man, I think this is a good fit to help you reach your goals and get to the next level." So, Brown and Black were with Jay Gennaro, who's under Shanji.
Respect, brother. Yeah, Shanji Ribeiro.
Yeah,
one of the best in the game. Shout out to Ranji.
Yeah,
and his brother Salo.
Yes,
shout out to them, pioneers. But crazy, man. So that's great. I just wanted to bring people up to date. So not only was he involved, this is what I like about it. Not only is he involved in this matchmaking, but he's also a student of the game. Never stopped, continued to train, ended up getting his black belt, 20 years, long process. And that's life. That's how it goes for some people. Some people can't dedicate the time like I could, where I was in the streets and I had nothing else. I was in the best place my coach knew is get your ass to the gym, be here in the morning for morning class, help me with the privates, help with kids class, help with the intermediate class, do the night class, and that was the best thing for me. Okay, so the transition from Bellator stopped. So bring us up to date now, bro. As this is coming to a close, you got in your mind like, okay, this is the end of this chapter. What am I gonna do next?
Before I get to that, can I just say one thing about how you talked about the appreciation for me wanting to train?
Yes.
I just want to say something about that because I always felt like, okay, I got this gig where I'm going to be working with fighters, managers, coaches, demanding the best of it. Like, I should at least know what it's like. I fought professionally, trained, never the greatest, but man, just guys, I know what it's like. I have the passion for it. I've spent a lot of time in gyms, came up in gyms. I did not want to approach these guys, try to get a deal done, try to inspire, try and get, without ever having any background or experience. I felt like, man.
And not knowing anything that they've been through or understanding any of it. Like not knowing how hard it is to do what they do. Respect, bro.
Exactly. Respect. I just felt I can't, how are they going to respect me? How are they going to look at me and say, man, this guy's telling me to do this or encouraging me to do this, and he doesn't even train, hasn't even been around the game.
I just think even if you don't become a fighter, at least go train some jiu-jitsu. If you don't want to get hit, go. At least then you'll understand a little bit of it more. And when you talk to these fighters, you'll have a little bit more smarts to talk to them about certain things. That's my opinion, and that's why I respect you, because if you really look at the MMA world, a lot of the people that are involved in it don't do any martial arts at all. So yeah, that was one of the cool things to know about you, bro. So respect.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for recognizing that, and I just wanted to give a little context around that. So, all right, what's after Bellator? I now I'm in full dad mode. 2 kids, they're really young. I'm wanting more time with them at home. I'm starting to think in my mind, all right, I'm in my early 40s, man, and I've been doing this for a long time. At this point, it's 20 years in the game.
Where am I going?
Might be time for something different. I kind of feel like might be time to try something different, to reinvent myself, so to speak, to kind of learn more, to just go for it while I'm still young, because I still believe being in your 40s is still young, right?
We're chilling, bro.
Right. But I don't want to wake up at 50 and think that, because then your kind of options are they're more limited, right? So I'm like, okay, let's
not waste no time.
Let's see what's out there. And John Kavanagh, Conor McGregor's coach, and him and I had worked together when I was at Bellator. He approached me. He was working with some guys in Australia on a business, on a project called Wimp to Warrior. So they reached out to me, and I just thought, man, Wimp to Warrior, what is that? That sounds interesting. I at least want to talk to him. I mean, like, John's involved.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, John, you're my guy, man. I'll always listen to what you have to say. So tell me more. And he goes, hey, I actually want you to talk more to the guy who really runs the company. His name's Nick Langton. He's an Australian guy, really smart and trains, and just talk to him and just find out more about the business. Yeah. And I did, and I'm glad I did, because those two shared their vision, and Nick broke down how what his vision was for the business. John kind of gave me the overall goal to spread martial arts, to get more people training, to get more average everyday men and women on the mat, and kids too. So this wasn't about pro fighters. This wasn't about finding the next world champion, the next Conor McGregor. This was about getting more people to train, more people to go into gyms.
I love that. I love that. And I get the name Wimp to Warrior, because I feel like it's so hard for a lot of people to go into these gyms and feel comfortable, because they know, like, some of these gyms, I'll be honest with you, bro, you go to them and all they want to do is just make an example out of you and kick your ass.
That's right. That's why it's so hard for beginners to go and sign up at a gym, because you're worried about that happening to you, and it does happen. And
some people they can't have that even happen to them. Some people need their arms and have jobs where, like, there might be a surgeon, you might have a lawyer, you got people that want to do this, but then they go and they got this young kid that all he wants to do is tap him 17 times and go 117 miles an hour, and you lose those guys. So yeah. I have respect for what he's doing, and I think the Wimp to Warrior, if I'm not mistaken, this is the kind of the goal, is to let all these people actually have a chance to learn and be comfortable and not have to go through the stress of getting their asses kicked.
Yes, that's right. So I'll tell you how it evolves from here. So that is the goal, right? Yeah. Is to get more people on the mats training, getting new people into gyms, getting more people training, helping gyms get more members. Like, it's a real positive thing, right? And I'm like, I love it. And so it's done in a really unique way. And here's the angle. So now Wimp to Warrior eventually rebrands and becomes the company that we're now pushing. It's called Alta.
Alta.
ALTA, Alta. And
Alta's on Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah, at Train Alta.
At Train Alta, ALTA?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And so, it's how do you introduce new people to the sport? What's this angle that you have to get people to jump in, to take on the challenge of training? It's a 20-week training camp that's MMA based, that leads you to your first amateur fight.
Oh, that's sick.
So
sick.
Average everyday people, and you're training with other people that are beginners. So you're not going to go get some sandbagger who's like a purple belt that's just going to, like you said, the nightmare of just going to a gym and getting hurt because they're not accommodating you and your needs of being a beginner. So this program starts, and it's based out of Sydney, Australia, right? So this program has been running over there. It's been running in Europe. John Cavanaugh has been running it, and they're like, man, we really want to grow it more in America. And we take, again, average everyday people, challenge them to join this camp at gyms all over the country. And we have some of the best partners. I mean, I was just up in the Bay yesterday, with Daniel Cormier, Gilbert Melendez, Kyrian, and Jessica Rose Clark at CSA.
Shout out to Gilbert Melendez. He's a Santa Ana boy.
Yes, he is. I was just with Gil.
He's from the town.
He is, man. And he reps Santa Ana.
Yeah, he does.
And, those are our partners here in LA. I was just with Alberto Crane. You're going to see Marcus. So we have like the best gyms and the best coaches that really appreciate this program, and they run it at their schools. And that's how we get a lot of new people into the sport. That's awesome, because they see this challenge, and it's really appealing to them, and scares them and makes them excited. Like we said earlier,
face your fears. That's what a lot of people want. When you get scared of something, when you're afraid of something, one of the best ways to overcome that fear is to face it. Don't run away from what you're afraid of. Run towards it, and it'll teach you something. And I've always thought that way throughout my life, and so many people can learn from that. And I think this is awesome. This gives them a chance to, even if they never do it again, but at least know what it's like to have trained like a fighter, to learn some techniques. And if you actually do ever get into a physical altercation, you have a little bit of experience and know what it's like, man.
Yes, you're developing practical skills. You're learning martial arts. You're getting fit. You're making new friends, being part of a new community.
Which that is, in my opinion, the most important part, or like since you said it, the most important part of martial arts, because I said at the beginning and you said it again yourself, is the people. The people that go to these gyms to train are the people that you guys want to surround yourselves with. These are the good people. These aren't the people that are going to tell you to go rob a bank or do something stupid. These are the people that you need to be around that are going to help you become fit and keep you out of trouble. And it's beautiful, man. I love to see it.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. I mean, we have people that I think joined the program. I don't necessarily think they even ever, it was more about community than it was, I want to learn, martial arts. It was more, the older you get, the kind of harder it is to find, a crew, that community, people that have your back like that. So it's all the positive things about martial arts. And we're out there pushing this program, and it's amazing, beautiful program. But we also understand that the program isn't for everybody, that, it's going to take a real select few that can take on that challenge. So we start thinking of ways that we can evolve and grow this company.
It sounds great to me though, bro.
What else can we do? So we're really more of a tech platform that helps connect people to gyms. And we're doing that, again, through tech, through media, creating content. We just shot an instructional series with Rafael Cordero, with Daniel Cormier.
Shout out to Kings and Rafael.
Yeah, man, these legends, right? They see what we're about, and they're like, hey, we're all collectively on this, as a martial artist, and all of us that have fallen in love with it and it's guided our lives, we all want to spread it because it's positive
and make it better.
Yes, and that's what we're all gathered here to do. Yeah, at Alta.
That sounds beautiful, man. I relate it to music. If you look like music, how music has evolved, martial arts has got to evolve. And you have all these pioneers and legends that have so much input and so much great ideas. And the more we all get together and like you said, it's such a small circle.
Yeah.
The more we're able to relay this to more people and get more people involved, the more we save the world, in my opinion, bro. Because the more martial artists are, the more people that are involved in that lifestyle. Like I've been doing some interviews because I'm involved in hip hop as well, and I've had some people that are involved in the gang life on my podcast, and just to hear the environment that they grew up and the things that they looked up to. And sometimes I think if they had this opportunity, if they would have met someone like me or someone like Joe, like my coach, that could have took them under the wing and be like, I care about you. This is not the life for you. Come do martial arts. Look at this family. Look at these people. These people care about you. These people are going to feed you. If you need something, they're going to come pick you up. Like, man, it's just such a beautiful thing to be a part of. I'm so blessed to have started training, and I owe my life to it, bro. And I always say this to people, like, when I pass away, I want to be buried in a gi, because that's how much it meant to me. And like I said from the beginning, the only goal now is just to see how many people I could do that for, how many people I can give back to and help. And bro, it's awesome to see like the transition of being, putting amazing fights together, being part of the biggest promotions that there's ever been involved in the history of mixed martial arts, training with some of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world, meeting. I've seen pictures with you with the who's who of the game. So you've also been blessed to have a great life through martial arts, and I see sky's the limit for what you guys are doing, brother. And one thing I noticed recently on your posts and stuff, and this is, as we're getting closer toward the end, I wanted to ask you, like, I see you posting stuff about Nate Diaz and Masvidal lately. What up, everybody? Want to take a quick second out of the podcast just to give a shout out to our sponsor, the best criminal defense attorney I know. The last time I got in trouble, I needed somebody that was going to look into my case and actually fight for me and get me the best deal possible, and he did that. And I'll make sure that he does that for you. Make sure you shout me out if you guys reach out to him. They're the sponsor of the Convo. You know anybody, a family member, or yourself that make a mistake, you want somebody like him on your side. Arash, please let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Thank you. Arash Hashemi, 310-448-1529, or HashemiLaw.com, HashemiLaw.com, or just Google hashtag Better Call Hash. Remember that, Better Call Hash. You'll find me on every social media channel all over the internet. 310-448-1529.
You better call Hash. Are
Yeah.
you involved in anything with this fight coming up?
Yeah, Alta, as I mentioned, that's like my core focus. That's my day job, so to speak.
100%. And we're gonna leave all info for everybody to be able to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But 20 years plus of experience in the game and all these relationships and contacts, I do get hit up from time to time for advice, like some consulting work and just guidance. And I don't say yes all the time, but when it's people that I really like and respect or projects that I believe in, I'm all for it. So, when I knew that Nate and George were involved in this, and they introduced me to the promoter, and they're like, "Hey, man, we'd feel good if you were there for him whenever he had questions or needed some guidance, because we want this show to be good, and we would just feel better, man. It'd be cool, and
if we have you on board,
and just to help out, like I'm not in there." They call me when they need something, when they have questions, and I'm happy to guide it, because I know at the end of the day, it's good for those guys. It's good for the sport. So yeah, long story short, I am helping out at some level with that event. In fact, there's the press conference tomorrow here.
Yeah, I was seeing the press conference. When is the fight?
June 1st.
June 1st is
at the Forum.
Up. One of my favorite. So here's the problem. One of my favorite fighters, Nate Diaz. I love the Diaz brothers. Yep. Nick and Nate, people always ask me, who's your favorite MMA fighter? And I want to ask you that same question, but for me, it's Nick. Nick Diaz is always going to be my favorite fighter, just because he's a straight G. Just that style, the swag, the way he acts. Like, I feel just like him sometimes, So I always relate to the Diaz brothers.
Yes,
I'm a big fan of the Diaz brothers, especially Nate. Nate's a gangster. I love the way he fights. He's never been in a boring fight. The guy's a straight G. And then the problem comes with, I like Jorge Masvidal too, man. He's an absolute same thing. The dude's a street dude, savage, and I just love his fighting style. And they're both as real as it gets. And it's like, what a great fight to be a part of, man. I wish they did MMA again, but even if it's boxing, we're all going to be tuning in for that, bro. So crazy that they reached out to you to be a part of such a massive event, and it's outside of the UFC, which is what I love even more.
Yeah.
It goes to show how important the fighters are. Not just the brand, how important the fighters are. These are the people that deserve the money. These are the people that put their heads, their health, their blood, and their heart on the line when they get out there. And it's good to see, especially those two, make money like this, bro.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you think about those two guys, they're icons. When you think about Nate, you think about 209, Stockton. When you think about Masvidal, 305, Miami. They fight hard. They never quit. They're gangsters, like you said, man. So yeah, those two guys are doing their thing. I'm happy to see them get this opportunity.
Hell yeah.
And they're gonna put on a hell of a show. But yeah, there's so much good stuff going on out there, man. And I just, at the end of the day, me personally, that's why I got involved with Alta. That's why I help guys like events like this and amongst a few others, and just I'll always be there for people that believe in martial arts and want to help it grow, because I've been spoiled like you like we were able to lay it all out, and it just made me realize again, like,
blessed.
I'm spoiled, man.
Yeah, what a fun
spoiled.
life. I feel this. I'm grinding, right? But I've been so, like, if you look at you go through my podcast and see who I've had on my show, you'd be like, God damn, how do you get all these cool ass guests on the show? So I'm blessed too, bro. But it all comes back to being involved in this beautiful thing we call martial arts, bro, and the people that are involved with it, such as you, my brother. And so today, this has been crazy, bro. It's been really cool, great conversation, hearing your history, how you got involved in jiu-jitsu, how got involved with matchmaking and the people that you've been around, and then bring it full circle to all these great promotions and to where you're at now, working on this big project, man. And from us, from Persian Legacy TV, bro, like, I wish you nothing but success, man. And you got a friend in me. And bro, if you need any help doing anything, I'm your man, because I could do it all.
That's what's up. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, 100%, bro. The floor is yours, bro. If there's anything that we missed, or if there's anything you want to shout out, any family or anybody, like, I feel like we covered your life story like pretty awesome, bro. And I feel like a lot of people got to really see what you've been through to be in the position that you're in, bro. So if there's anything left or people you want to shout out, please let people know how they can follow you and all that.
Yeah,
brother.
I guess in closing, how I ended up here, man. Like, it's just I recognized your hustle. Remember when you reached out and I said, hey, I see what you're doing.
Thank you, bro.
And we have different backgrounds. We come from different places. We're different people, but there's this common connector, and it's hustle, it's martial arts, and it's family. And those are the things that I stand for. I try to live my life to improve those things and improve my community and my family through those things. And so when I saw that that's what you're about as well, it doesn't matter, you know, where we're from, what our backgrounds are. I think those are the things that can connect us. And so I just wanted to thank you for seeing that in me and bringing me on here, and maybe together, man, who knows what we can do to spread the positivity and, you know, all the great things that we love about what we do.
Absolutely, brother. And like, again, it's been an honor. They can follow you on Instagram at @rich_chow.
But more importantly, go to @train_Alta. We're all about martial arts, man. We're a scrappy little startup that will help you start your journey, and just come see us, and we will, you know, change this world with martial arts together.
Go support, go train. Like, even if you don't go there and train, go train
somewhere.
Train,
exactly.
You know, it's like I say, the one thing, it may not be, you may not want to be a fighter, and that's okay. You may not ever want to compete, and that's okay. If you got a good instructor, they're going to see what you need it for, and they're going to help you. And I can tell you one thing, you won't be disappointed in ever starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because most of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community are amazing. And one thing I always say is Jiu-Jitsu saved my life, and it can save a lot more. And get involved, get into mixed martial arts. It's the best thing that happened. Brother, thank you. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Legacy.
Great conversation. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, tell your mama and your daddy. Peace.